Greetings, it's Reverend Ahmondra, and I'm coming at you from the place where the original queens always speak their truth. So today we are continuing with our episodes in our series, Black Women Building Success Through Transition. And today we're moving into our fourth episode, and it's all about creative transitions, and I titled it, It's My Show. But before we jump into that episode, let's recap. So, in the very first episode, we just talked about the introduction to transition. What are transitions? Transitions are the experiences that take us from one stage of life into the next stage of life. And when we understand that we are making a transition, we have the opportunity to reach into those transitions and pull out blessings, which I call life lessons. And then we can use those lessons in the next transition. In the second episode, we talked about the automatic transitions, those transitions that take place in our life without us even understanding and knowing that they're happening. We talked about how, as women, our bodies transition and it's all automatic and it's done in the dark. In episode 3, we talked about the natural transition. And that's all that period during childhood. How when we arrive here, we have a little suitcase and all we want to do is dance and have a great time. But as we're dancing through life, other people start sticking stuff in our bag. And by the time we're ready to transition out of childhood, we have this heavy little bag that we're carrying and we can't dance the way we used to. That was in episode 3. Today we are moving into episode 4, creative transition. It's my show. This is the time we transition out of childhood into adolescence. And now we don't have one bag, we have a couple of bags full of things that we did not even know were there. And when we get into this stage called adolescence, we look around and we decide, oh my goodness, I have all this stuff and it's not me. And we begin to say, this is my show and I'm going to create a life for me according to what I like. And on the outside world, people begin to call it rebellion. But it actually is a time of transition. We begin to create who we are. Now, it's very crucial for us as Black women to understand when we transition into adolescence, many times we're carrying with us burdens that were given to us. In childhood, many of us experienced molestation, abuse, anxiety because of what was going on in the family. We have dreams and we want to run towards those dreams. But because we've been burdened with shame or with activities that aren't age appropriate, like taking care of our siblings or taking care of all those around us. As young women, we have this placed upon us. Many times in transition, when we are just trying to be our true self and get rid of all the labels and behaviors that others put on us, we reach for substances. And those substances sometimes can lead us into substance abuse, can lead us into addiction. Sometimes we go out into the world seeking to find our tribe, and we find tribes that exploit us and send us into a life of prostitution, a life of crime, a life of hurt and pain. And like they say, we sought love in all the wrong places. And we discovered that here we are now, we're teen moms. During this time of creativity where we should be discovering who we are actually taking on roles as adults. Many of us want to escape. I remember when I transitioned into adolescence, all I wanted to do was prepare my life so that I could leave home because I knew that no one else was going to take care of me when I transitioned out of adolescence. So this whole creative transition for me was about building a life. No one teaches us how to clear our bags out. What ends up happening is we put more and more items, ideas, behaviors into our bags and they just burden us down even more. During this creative transition, where many of us say, this is my show, we are simply trying to create our identity away and apart from all that stuff that was put inside of our bag. When I was writing my book and I was speaking to our sisters, I discovered that many of us are walking around holding secrets that occurred in our adolescent youth, secrets that prevented us from moving forward, secrets that didn't allow us to use our natural talents because we were concerned about hiding whatever it was that occurred to us. And we move out of adolescence into young adulthood, hiding pain and anguish. We don't have the ability to grow and use all our natural talent. We want to dance in life like we danced when we were younger. But unfortunately, we no longer are able to do that. As Black women, we carry in our bags so many things that don't belong to us that were given to us. And we never take them out of our bags. So, what there is for us to do is to go back into that creative transitional period of time and begin to look at and identify all of the behaviors, concepts, ideas that were given to us, all of the tasks that we had to do in order to survive through our adolescence and see how we can use the strengths that we develop and all of the knowledge that we develop to help us move that block that is keeping us from being successful in whatever area of life. You may find that you cannot be successful financially. When you go back and you look at that creative transitional period of time, you may discover that finances was a big obstacle in your family. I discovered in working with one of my clients that at 10 years old, she had to be responsible for her younger siblings. And so she started selling drugs so that she could purchase everything that they needed so that they would not go without. That's what she learned to do at such a young age. And by the time she reached adolescence, she was taking care of the whole household. And she never stopped taking care of the household. And as an adult, she found that financially she was always struggling. And it was because she was taking all of the money that she had and taking care of everybody around her. But when she discovered that that habit had started at an early age and that she could now begin to stop taking care of everybody because they're all adults now, that is when she had a breakthrough financially and was able to move forward and become successfully in her financial life because that behavior that she learned as a young person, she could let it go. She could put it down. You might be struggling with the weight problem now, not understanding and realize that the root of that weight problem started back in adolescence. Maybe you started using food to comfort you. You may discover that you picked that behavior up so that you would feel better because of what you were experiencing at the time. In relationships, you may discover that you're blocked because you continue to pick the same type of partners over and over again with the same result. When you go back into that creative transitional period of time, you might discover that that particular type of person that's in your life today was in your life at that time. And that is what's familiar to you. It may not be good for you, but it's familiar to you. And so you continue to bring that same type of person into your life. It is during that creative transition that our personalities develop and we begin to accept certain behaviors and certain ideas and certain thoughts. And we take those thoughts forward with us in life. But those aren't necessarily the best for us. We accept them because that's all we know. But today we get to make a different choice. Today we get to step back into that period of time and actually examine those experiences that happened to us. Look at what was given to us and how it impacted us. And if it's not serving us now, we can just disregard. When we reach into that transition, you are going to find so many blessings and so many gifts because you will find that you develop strength, you develop resiliency, you develop creativity, you have skills that you can use today. My homework for you this week, go back to adolescence. It may be painful for some of us. It might be someplace we don't want to go. But if you go there and you begin to understand that it was during that period of time, you develop a lot of the habits, a lot of the behaviors, a lot of the concepts and thoughts that are blocking you today. You will also discover that you created some very powerful ideas that moved you forward. Do you understand who you are? That you've been walking around this life with two suitcases here, one on your back, one on your head, and you've been moving forward? and doing all that you're doing, carrying all that stuff with. Today, we get to take this one off our head, move the one off our back, put down these suitcases, and begin to create a whole nother way of being. We get to come out of the darkness of the cocoon with a whole new body. I guarantee you, you will discover passion hidden under those birds. You will discover a strength hidden under those birds. And when you release those secrets, you will find a life where you can begin to dance again. And always remember, who you are today is the result of what happened to you yesterday. So if you want something different today, you can go back and look at what got created back there, and you can shift it and change it so that today you can transform into someone totally and completely that you desire to be. If you haven't picked up a copy of my book, The Uncrowned Queen Reclaims Her Throne When a Black Woman Breaks the Silence, pick it up, and the journal also. And be sure to send this video out to others. There are so many of us struggling to be successful in certain areas of our life, and we don't realize that what's blocking us is something that got put in place during that time called creative transition. We created that. We can go back and remove that and create something totally, completely different. I invite you to join me next week when we step into the episode called Program Transition, The Journey. It's going to be interesting to see what got developed in adolescence that we carried into young adulthood.